Hello and welcome to the channel. Essay on Generation Gap. Generation Gap essay in 200 words. People born in different ages are different from each other in various aspects. The world is changing at a rapid pace, and thus the difference between people born in different times is inevitable. For instance, if we would talk about India, people born before independence are different from those born today. There is a huge difference between the thinking of the two generations, and why not? There is a drastic difference between the whole cultural, economic, and social environment the two have been a part of. Generation gap is the term given to a difference between two generations. The society changes at a constant pace, and hence the lifestyle, ideologies, opinions, beliefs, and the overall behavior of people also undergoes change with time. This change gives way to newer ideas and breaks the unreasonable stereotypes, and this in turn has a positive impact on the society. However, most of the times it becomes a cause of conflict between two generations. The parent child relationship is often affected due to their generation gap. It has been observed that the parents try to impose their values and ideologies on their kids, while the latter means the kids want to explore the world on their own. Many relationships have suffered due to generation gap. Several parents and children have conflicts because of their difference of opinions, which they must understand is natural as there is a generation gap between them. Generation gap essay in 300 words. Generation gap is referred to as the difference of beliefs and ideas between people from different generations. There is a common phenomenon and has continued for ages. The term is often used to state the difference of opinions between children and parents or grandparents. Origin of the term generation gap. The theory of generation gap was introduced in the year 1960s. Around this time, it was observed that the younger generation questioned and went against almost everything their parents believed. This included their religious beliefs, political views, moral values, relationship advice, and even the type of music and shows they prefer. Noted sociologists such as Karl Menahem observed the differences across generations and how generations separated themselves from each other in different situations. Generation gap, an interesting concept. While a generation gap is usually a cause of conflict between the children and their parents, it is actually an interesting concept. The world would have actually been quite dull if it had not been for this gap. Each generation sets its own fashion trends, introduces its own slangs, influences the development of science and technology, and comes up with fresh ideas and so on. Generation gap has led to several changes in the society, especially in India, where the joint family system was prevalent since ages. The concept of nuclear families has been introduced in India of late, and this is also a result of the generation gap. People these days crave for privacy and want to lead their life their own way, and the joint family system is a hindrance to it. Many people are thus going for nuclear families. Similarly, many changes happening at various levels in the society are a result of the generation gap. Conclusion: as is the case with almost everything concept on earth, generation gap also has its own sets of pros and cons. There is a need for developing understanding and acceptance in order to bridge this gap. Generation gap essay in 400 words. The fields of science and technology are constantly evolving, and so is the way of living of the people, their beliefs, notions, and their overall behavior. Thus, people belonging to different generations behave differently and have their own set of ideologies, which is referred to as generation gap. How is the generation gap evident? The people belonging to different generations have been given different names. For instance, those born before independence have been termed as the traditionalists. The generation after that is called the baby boomers. Those born between 1965 to 1980s are called Generation X. And those born between 1980s and 1999 are known as the Generation Y. There is a few things that clearly show the gap between these generations. Here is a look at the same. Family system. People belonging to the older generations lived in a joint family system and believed in sharing and caring. However, this concept has deteriorated over the generations. The current generation wants freedom, and there is hardly anyone who follows the traditional way of living in the joint families. The overall lifestyle of people has changed drastically. Language. The Hindi spoken by people belonging to the pre-independence era is quite different from that being spoken today, and the change did not occur all of a sudden. It occurred over a period of time, generation after generation. Each generation adopts a new group of slangs, thereby creating some division from the earlier one. Communication between people belonging to different generations at home as well as workplace sometimes becomes quite difficult due to this change in language. Workplace attitude. While people belonging to the earlier generations were good at taking directions and were loyal to the single employer, people these days get bored quite quickly and seek new jobs within a few years or at times even months of getting a job. The Gen Y people are innovative and want to share and implement themselves unique ideas rather than blindly taking directions from their boss. Attitude towards women. Women belonging to the older generations were mostly confined to home. They were only seen as someone who should take care of the house. Going out and working was the thing of the men of the house. However, society's attitude towards women has changed over the generations. Today, women are allowed to enter any field of their choice and work just as men. Conclusion. People belonging to one generation are very different from their other, which is natural. However, the problem arises when people from different generations try to impose their ideas and beliefs on the other while totally condemning that of the others. Generation Gap essay in 500 words. Generation gap is basically the gap between different generations. The theory of generation gap launched in the 1960s states that the younger generation is always seen questioning and challenging the ideas, viewpoint, and beliefs of the older generations. Classification of generations. It has been observed that people from different generations behave differently in any given situation. Based on their point of view, beliefs, ideas, and overall behavior, generations have been classified into different categories. Here is a look at this classification in detail. The traditionalists, the baby boomers, the Generation X group, the Generation Y group. Here is a brief account each of these generations. The traditionalists. These people belong to the group that was born before 1946 and are now above 70 years of age. These are said to be the ones who take orders well and get satisfied when a job is accomplished efficiently. They love sharing their experiences with the younger generations and like to be around people who appreciate their knowledge and experience. They are known to be loyal to a single employer. Most of them spend their entire life working for the same organization and look forward to the same loyalty in return. The baby boomers. These people were born between 1946 and 1965. People from this generation are hard working but mostly not open to feedbacks. They want monetary rewards as well as promotions. Since most of them didn't grow up in luxury, they make sure their children have everything they want. They also have an urge to feel appreciated. They want their employers and children to tell them that they are valued and needed. A lack of the same creates dissatisfaction among them. The Generation X. People belonging to this generation were born between 1965 and 1980. Generation X wants their space. The best reward for them is in the form of time off. They want to do things their own way and don't like going by any rules. They want to be told that they can do things the way they want. Most of these people saw both their parents working, and the impact it had on them was not good. Hence, they gave a preference to their family life over their job. This generation is known to have pushed for flexible working hours. The Generation Y. This is the group of people born between 1981 and 1999. Most of them have just entered the workforce. This group is interested in indulging into meaningful work and also looks forward to quick feedback. People from this generation are quite creative. They like working with creative individuals and at places where they are allowed to explore their creativity. This is the source of motivation for them, keeps them alive. This is also a generation that tends to get bored very quickly. Unlike the traditionalists, they change their jobs quite frequently. Conclusion. The human race is constantly evolving, and hence there is a change in the ideologies of people belonging to different generations. While it is completely alright to have an opinion different from the other, however, it should never turn into a cause of conflict. Generation Gap Essay in 600 words. Generation gap is a natural phenomenon. The studies conducted in this direction state how one generation is bound to be different from the other. It is something that comes naturally to them, and it is in a way a good thing, as this is how the human species is evolving. Generation gap impact on relationships. Fresh ideas and viewpoints are always good. This is how the world around us evolves at different levels. However, the difference of opinions and ideas between two generations, especially parents and children, often becomes a point of clash. This clash has resulted in numerous strained relationships. Parents have huge expectations from their kids. They have a set image of how their kids should behave based on their tradition, values, as well as the way the other kids in their extended family are doing. They think they know best about how and what their kids should do in life. Now, the problem arises when the child has a different bent of mind, which happens in most of the cases. This is when the conflict begins. This is not to say that the parents are absolutely wrong each time. They are elders and are certainly a great guidance, and at times take the right decision for their kids. However, the younger generation seldom understands this. It is sad how generation gap has been a cause of numerous estranged relationships. How to bridge the gap? Parent child relationship is the most beautiful relationship in the world. It should be nurtured with love and handled with care. It is unfortunate to see how these relationships are strained at the hands of something as trivial as difference in opinion. It is seen that the older generation always claims to be a better judge and a better decision maker, and the younger generation is often made to feel like the culprit. It is time to understand that neither is completely wrong or completely right in what they do. In fact, the definition of right and wrong in this case is different for different generations. There is a need for acceptance and understanding here. People from older generation must understand that their children are born in a different age, and hence their mindset is different from them. Parents and grandparents need to pay attention to why their children are behaving in the way they are behaving, and as to why they have an opinion different from them, rather than blindly imposing their rules and ideas on the latter. Parents must become friends with their children to understand their psyche. Children, on the other hand, must respect their parents. They must trust their parents and share their thoughts with them. Children must be open to feedback and understand that the advice coming from their parents is not wrong. It will only help them progress in life. Parents must judge their children and allow them to space to do things on their own rather than poking in everything. While parents give their children space, they must define certain boundaries that the latter should respect the same. Two-way communication is the basis of a strong relationship, and both parents and children must ensure they maintain the same. Any issues must be discussed, and both the parties should try to understand each other's point of view rather than debating against it. Conclusion. Generation gap occurs because the world is constantly changing. It should be understood that people born in different ages are bound to be different from one another. People must respect each other for their individuality rather than imposing their ideas and beliefs on each other. Thank you very much. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel for such informative and educational videos. Thank you very much. Keep learning and keep growing.